You're here partially because of World Honey. Tell us a little bit about that. Your developers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so a big part of what we do is we have this developer platform, right? So a big part of our vision is that, you know, social networking isn't something that you go to one app to do, right? I mean, it's in the past, you know, it's been something where it's like, okay, well, I want to share something with my friend, I'll go to Facebook or I'll go to another social network. In the future, I don't think it's quite going to be like that. I still think that there are going to be these basic social platforms, but more and more what we're finding is that there are all these different apps that people use on computers or phones, and more of them are socially integrated, right? So if you look at Apple's App Store, for example, if you look at the top 400 apps, more than half of them are already integrated with Facebook, right? So it gives you the sense that, you know, no matter what type of app you want to use, whether it's a game or a music app or some kind of marketplace where you want to know the people who you're buying from, or an education software app where you want to be able to share stuff and collaborate with your friends, there are all these different use cases and different things where you just want to be able to share with your friends, and you want these apps to know who your friends are. And that's just a big part of what Facebook is. When you're using Facebook, you're not just using Facebook, you're also using whatever apps you want that plug into that. And in order to build those apps, I mean, we're not building all those ourselves, it's developers all around the world doing it. And you know, there are a lot of folks in Europe who have built really substantial companies, especially around gaming. And so one of the things that I wanted to do when I was here is just sit down with a bunch of the developers and see what they're building, and kind of let them know what we're focused on building, and kind of what tools we have that they should be plugged into.
So obviously this is this is the #1 university in Russia, and you're probably speaking about a very elite group that will start a lot of businesses, probably run a lot of businesses as well. All of those businesses will have to do with mobile. That's where we are. We're already there, and we're going to be there more. What would you tell this audience why they should care about Facebook when they think about internet businesses?
Well, I mean, whether it's mobile or not, I mean, I think there's this opportunity now with these new technology platforms. Mobile phones are one, I think social networks is another important one, to just reimagine almost any kind of product category that you can think of, right? So, I mean, music, I mean, is an interesting example where, you know, you want to be able to discover more music than the radio will play for you. Because I mean, they'll just play the same, you know, 40 or 50 songs over and over again. And so one great way to discover music is, you know, you can kind of follow people who have good musical tastes, or you want to see what your friends are listening to, and that's interesting. So there are companies like Spotify is this example, this Swedish company, where they have this new model where basically you sign in with Facebook, and then you have your friends there, and you can see what your friends are listening to, and you discover just a ton of more music. And that's an example of how their basic model is, because you're discovering so much more music through your friends, you then buy more, or you are more likely to become a subscriber, so they can make more money and build a better business than any other music company or product that's out there. So it's really disruptive, right? Games have been another one where, you know, traditionally, in order to get, you know, 10 or 20 million people to play a game, it's just been a huge amount of marketing work that you have to put in, and very few games have achieved that. But through Facebook, you basically have this dynamic where someone's playing a game, they can easily share with their friends and pull their friends into the game, and there are many games that have reached tens of millions of users, so that's also really disruptive to that industry. So now, I think that basically every industry, I think in the next 5 or 10 years, is going to get really rethought to be mobile and social. And especially now, I mean, in the last version of iOS that Apple just shipped, they did this great Facebook integration, so now more easily than ever, you can just have your app be plugged into Facebook. I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, most apps that are succeeding on these platforms are already social and plugged into Facebook, and I think that that's just going to be an accelerating trend. Because I mean, people want to do stuff with their friends.
Makes perfect sense. You mentioned when, I think at TechCrunch before, you said that you still have more mobile web usage than you get from apps on Android and iOS combined. Is it because people, when they get those smartphones, they switch to another apps? They use things like Instagram, Path, Flipboard. Even though they all connect to Facebook, they still don't get so much attention from them anymore.
The numbers that we have don't reflect that. So I mean, what we basically have seen is, you know, on mobile it's definitely true that people use more things, right? So on desktop, one of the big problems with the web in general is it's really just hard to discover new apps. Right? I mean, you have search engines which are great for finding something when you are looking for a specific thing, and you can discover things socially through Facebook and other social networks. But there's no kind of app store or catalog where you can go to see like all the stuff that there is on the web, right? And but on mobile, Apple and Google have done a good job of that with their platform. So people generally install a lot more stuff to their phones, and that's awesome. Now, on all of these platforms, iOS, Android, and mobile web, Facebook is basically by far the most used app, right? So I mean, on iPhone, I think it's like more than 80% of iPhones have Facebook installed on them. Android, I think it's a similar number. Both platforms have told us that we're just like by far the most installed and most used apps. So I think it's also true that you're using, that people are using more apps in addition, and those apps tend to also be plugged into Facebook. But Facebook usage is actually increasing on those. And a big part of that is, I mean, you have the phone with you all the time, so you can, so now whenever you want to share something, it's like, you can just take a picture of it right there and upload it, and that's awesome.
When you say, well, first of all, I mean, I thought that the most widely used app on the App Store or Play, respectively, because that's what people use when they find their applications. And I agree with you; it's almost impossible to find things on a huge web. It's almost impossible to find things on App Store now. It's difficult. 600,000 applications, 700,000 applications. So you want to replace App Store, right?
I mean, no. I mean, on Apple you can't, right? I mean, that's like a core part of their operating system is they have this App Store, and I mean, they don't want anyone else to replace it, so we can't, even if we wanted to, which we don't. But I mean, we have a different model, right? I mean, the App Store that Apple has is kind of the definitive place where you go to look up an app and download the app. But the thing that we can do that almost no one else can do is tell you what apps your friends are using if they want to share that. And that's really cool, right? Because a lot of times the way that we all discover stuff in the real world is someone will show you something on their phone. They'll like come over to you and say, hey, like check out this app, it's pretty neat. So if you could have a version of that that's digital where you can just look at, okay, well here are all the apps that my friends are using, then I think that people would just end up exploring a lot more stuff than they would otherwise naturally.
So the whole app economy, where apps, basically same applications, have been around forever and ever, and they get packaged nicely, put on the store, download on the phone. So eventually web will come in, right, to the mobile devices? Is that how you see it, or is it going to be apps for foreseeable future?
Well, it's easy to forget that, not everyone has iPhones and these like really nice smartphones, right? So, I mean, that's one of the things that I think is actually the most interesting right now is, in addition to being the most downloaded and used app on iPhone and Android, it's also, we have more mobile web usage than on those two platforms combined, and a lot of that is on lower end devices. So I think, I'm not actually sure what's going to happen on iOS and Android. I mean, Apple seems like they really want people to use apps, and I understand why, because I mean, you can just get such a better user experience by building something natively than through mobile web. But on a lower end phone, mobile web is definitely this lowest common denominator thing where anyone can build a website and people can download it. So it's a great way to build something that hundreds of millions of people can use on a ton of different devices.
It's interesting point. Well, I'm going to stop bringing you a movie here. Come back to our audience. It seems that a lot of rich and famous, when they come to students, they say stay in school. What's your message? The ones that dropped out.
What's up? Yeah, I dropped out. I don't know if that's worth like clapping for. No, I mean, I like school. I mean, it's obviously Facebook has been super interesting, and I obviously feel really lucky to have been able to play this role. But I mean, I was learning a lot in school, and I mean, one of the things that I wish is that when I were in school that I paid more attention, so I would have just learned more stuff. And I don't know, I don't know what the policy is here that you guys have around entrepreneurship and taking time off, but one of the interesting things for me was I actually, Harvard had this policy that you didn't have to I never had to actually drop out. What I did was basically, I took a term off to continue working on Facebook. I built Facebook, the first version when I was still a student, and then it just got to be too much to both maintain Facebook and take courses, so I decided to take a term off. And it was just 6 months. And then, Facebook kept on growing, and there were more things that I wanted to do, so I was like, all right, I'll take another 6 months off, and then another 6 months, and then I just kind of never went back. But I mean, Harvard is nice about that, right? Because they never made me make this decision of, okay, you have to either drop out or commit to going to school. Because if I had to, from the beginning, decide to drop out in order to take one term off, I probably wouldn't have, right? Because I didn't know that Facebook was going to grow up to be this awesome thing. I think that there are a lot of universities in the US that have these policies where you can take time off to explore stuff. And I think that's definitely worth doing. I don't know if you guys have a policy that's similar to that here, but if you do and you have some idea that you want to work on, then I think it's completely reasonable to try to take some time off to do that. But university is great because it's this one time in your life where you don't have to necessarily focus on and I guess you have this job of getting good grades and learning in school, but you don't have to completely support yourself, right? I mean, it's there's a lot of stuff that's provided to you by a university. And you just get time to kind of talk to all these people around you and explore ideas, and you generally have a lot more free time in university than when you have a job afterwards. So I definitely would not be rushing to leave. I think I really enjoyed the time that I had in school because that's where I kind of got to explore a lot of the ideas that kind of contributed to how I think about the world now.
So, have you dropped out before of anything?
What's that?
Have you stopped doing something you started doing before? Are you persistent?
I guess. I didn't drop out of school before that, I guess, by definition. I don't know, I mean, in terms of building stuff for me, I never really, before Facebook, I never really wanted to make a company, right? So everything that I built, I was working on because it was something that I really wanted to exist in the world. And most of the things were things that I just wanted to use myself. And Facebook had this property that in order for it to be useful, I had to get all these other people to use it. But before that, I mean, most of the things that I built a music player for myself. I built a ton of different tools to do just different things for myself. And that was cool, and I just basically worked on those until I got bored, and then I worked on it, and then I went to the next thing. But for Facebook, I mean, there's a lifetime's worth of problems, and it's a really awesome thing. And in order to make Facebook useful for anyone, I had to build this thing that at least got everyone in my university at the very beginning to want to use it, and then kind of spread beyond that. And so I've had to learn all these things about building software and building products that other people use, and that you're not just building for yourself. But that's been pretty fun along the way.
You moved to Silicon Valley, though. I mean, you picked up from Boston, you moved to Silicon Valley, and you built a company that changed the world, right? It became something that is now popular. There seems to be that so many companies that actually do that come out to Silicon Valley. Is that a major place?
Yeah, a moment ago I was talking about how at university it's this pretty unique time because you have all these students around you, and you get access to so many different perspectives, and you have time to just kind of sit and talk to people, and that's really awesome. And Silicon Valley is kind of like that for engineering and technology, right? I mean, you generally have a job, but besides that, I mean, there's so much infrastructure there to build companies. There are all these great engineers and designers and investors who want to put money into good ideas, and if you want to start something, it's pretty easy to. So that part of it is really good. I mean, there are negative aspects of it too. I mean, I think that the culture generally tries to, it has made entrepreneurship this kind of fashionable thing where I don't think that making a company is cool, right? I mean, you should make a company because you want to build something and you want something to exist in the world and you feel passionately about it, not because you think that having a company is cool. And Facebook was never really like that. I started it because it was something that I just wanted to exist, and then